Again, my name is Dr. Bryan, and my question isn't plastic or paper, so that's good. I don't have to ask that question of you. For those of you that know what I do to get health care in this town, it's ask people whether they'd like plastic or paper. And that works really well for getting health care. I've discovered that's a very good vehicle to get corporate health care in a little town in Idaho. And so, but on my days where I can, I sure love to be here and enjoying these kinds of topics. I have my doctorate in religion from the University of Southern California, and with the privilege of working with Dr. Bob Elwood, whose specialization was in Buddhism, and so it was a joy to do that. I then had the privilege of serving as a professor at Warren Pacific University in Portland, and served in that capacity, including chair of the Department of Religion at one. But my wife got sick, and the rheumatologist said, get higher or hotter, but get out of Portland. It's not a good town for rheumatoid arthritis. And so her family come to McCall, and we just packed our mail and came as well. And so we've enjoyed building things while we've been here. One of the things we've enjoyed is McCall College, and we've been struggling to get that going. And I didn't want to teach religion because I didn't think it would be successful. I just didn't think I could launch religion into this town and get 6 people in the room. I just didn't think it would happen. So I didn't until I talked to Jody, and we said, well, let's try. And it went off like fireworks. And so we had an amazing response back in January. And so that's a little bit of me. And so my family's here. You met my wife, the art instructor here in the community, and I have 3 sons. 2 of them are in McCall as well. And one of them, as you're driving south of town, you're going to see a brand new building. It's called Print Shop McCall. And that's my oldest. And so he's done wonderfully well in our community as well. And so we're glad to be here. Couple things. Thank you for all registering. If you haven't had, please take a moment and register. It is sort of a double registration. There's the one-time McCall College to the course registration, and then there's the sign-in sheet that we have up here. So yeah, it looks like everyone has gotten the sign-in sheet. If you could help me with the little more formal registration for the college, that would be great. I confused everybody a lot because I wanted to see how many students might climb the ladder to a full course for this. And a full course is a 15 to 16 week course. And I wanted to see whether I could encourage anyone that would join that conversation. Would that be of interest? And so I confused everybody with prices, and my apologies. Normally we're $55 a month, and it's just for 4 lectures, $55 a month. And if you want to drop in for one, it's $15. And so it was sort of a simple pricing structure, which I really wanted to complicate because I really wanted to see would anybody sort of take it to the next level. And the next level means exams. It means homework. It means all those things you've been fleeing from, that every good prof knows is really part of the learning process. And if you don't do it, how do I know you've learned a dang thing? and so it's sort of like, man, I'd love to encourage some of our students to finally sort of rise to that level of saying, would you please give me an exam so I can figure out if I'm doing anything? And we all sort of hate that idea. I know we do, but it really, if you take an exam, you know something. And if you'd like to teach it, and you haven't taken an exam from it, woe to you as you walk in the classroom. You don't have the confidence to say, I know something. My final dissertation exam was 16 hours, over 90 texts from Plato all the way through to modern. And at the end of that exam, I was so excited, not just because I passed, because I know something, I really do, and it's so affirming. And so to become a full student is something I'm just going to lay in front of everybody over these next few months. And to say, join me in this more difficult journey, because I'll ask you to go down and talk to an expert in Boise. I'll ask you to visit a temple in Boise. I'll ask you to write a paper for me. I'll ask you to do some real, or at least a project. I'll ask you to read some books. This isn't just me. What I say in class is so minuscule to what you glean when you go chase some Wikipedia, or you chase a text, or you read a text on Buddhism. It's so much richer and deeper than we can ever get to in the classroom. So I'm just sort of the conductor of the journey. So this challenge is to say something meaningful in an hour and a half block that really, of a topic of the spirituality of yoga. Heaven help us, what am I going to accomplish in an hour and a half with that topic? Other than to sort of wet your tongue and to hope to make you thirsty for the topic and to allow you a next step is about all we can accomplish there. And so the 55 and the 15, that's our classic. But if I could nudge anyone into that next level, I would love to do it. I'd also encourage you, if this is meaningful for you, to help me with scholarships. We have 3 scholarships available. If anyone here is struggling with finances and asks for a scholarship, I would be pleased to offer it. And so if that's a possibility, I'd love to talk with you about gifting to the college for scholarships for the Religions of India program. And so the last thing is that each month we'll do a new religion, and that'll be a new fee. So the fee is per evening, $15, $55 for the month. And each month will be $55 if you join us. I'm assuming I'm going to get absolutely flooded in Buddhism. Absolutely flooded when we start the Buddhism. There's so much interest in Buddhism. But folks, it's so hard to understand Buddhism unless you're right here for Hinduism. Because Buddhism is a reaction to Hinduism at all levels. And so you really, that goal of how do I answer that question of Hinduism versus Buddhism is so important because it devolves, Buddhism devolves very quickly into meditation and positioning, which is what we would call Zen Buddhism. It devolves to that unless you really have a deeper understanding of what it's coming out of. And so the harder study of Hinduism, which was dramatically harder than Buddhism, is so valuable when you get to Buddhism if you've done the hard work of Hinduism. So every course you'll ever take on world religions will always start with Hinduism, and it'll move to Buddhism for that precise reason. Is you can make that jump so much easier if you've done the hard work of Hinduism. And Hinduism just makes your head hurt, so just enjoy the journey. Comments on that level of the class or anything I've said so far? Comments there? I come to this with a real frustration over what I was saying over how some of the churches treat knowledge and religion. And it comes from that fear that if I engage in another religion, somehow it will hurt me and my faith and my community and where I stand. I have so much fun when I know of someone's tradition of inviting them to these kinds of courses. And I have most fun with my LDS friends. Is just saying, come on out. And but I've got many in the very conservative Protestant communities, and they're very afraid of this. They're just very afraid. And the fear typically comes from their superiors, that their superiors have said, don't do it. Their fear may come from their parents that have said, don't go there, that's mysticism, that's that 60s stuff. We all saw what happened to the Hare Krishnas in the 60s, and I don't want you banging a drum outside the airport if you go study this stuff. And so it comes from our family that are deeply embedded in their own roots, religious roots. And it comes from yourself in the sense that for me to hear that there's been 2 with have taken a college course is stunningly wonderful. I mean, that's wonderful that you were in a curriculum that had that. I was fighting the whole time I was at the university to keep religions of the world on other agendas of other majors, and I was always getting knocked off for various reasons, and I was fighting to get it back on. And so there's this real sense that I don't need it. What's the point of this? And so the study of the religions of the world, I think, is a necessity. It's a necessity at 3 levels. It's a necessity that I think you need the awareness of all religions of the world that are in your neighborhood. Okay? I lived in a wonderful block, 2 blocks from the university. We lived on the corner. We had a lovely old Portland character home. And on my immediate left was a Reformed Jew. Across the street was an Auschwitz Jew with the numbers on her wrist. I think it was
all the way up.
It was up her arm, wasn't it? I had a gay couple that direction, and I couldn't quite figure out their religious traditions. I had an Italian Catholic on this corner, and these are the immediate people around me. And I had a Muslim right behind me. Now, that was my corner in Portland, folks. Now, what's my responsibility living in my house? I think I have a responsibility to be aware of those religions. I think that's a minimum responsibility of having an awareness of everyone in my worldview. Now let's bring it to McCall. What are the religions of the Checkers and Albertsons? Okay? LDS, Catholic, pagan, Church of God, eclectic, wonderful eclectic, and naturalists, those that enjoy our area. And that's just sort of what I can sort of figure out who's just around me in Albertsons.
And Pentecostals, I think.
Oh, yes. I missed that.
Not again.
Now, don't I have a responsibility to be aware of all of those traditions? Is that fair? Is that a fair expectation of everyone in our community? To be aware of what the religious traditions are around you. Just be aware. But if you do that, then you can't stop there. Because I've got to say, well, what the heck is a naturalist? What do they do? Go out in your world and hug trees all the time? Is that what a naturalist is?
Honestly, I don't know. That's why she's here.
I mean, what is that? You know, because that's what they do. They really love our area. And they spend all their weekends in the area, and they're camping, and they're fishing, and they're moving around, and they just absolutely love the natural environment. That is a spiritual naturalist, folks. That's a spiritual experience. That is, if you sort of pin them down, they'll say, that's my church. I go out there and I'm spiritually engaged with that. Well, now I'm not. Now I didn't stop at being knowing. Oh, they're a naturalist. It's like, oh, I'm beginning to understand, and then I go, wow, I like doing that too sometimes. Not all the time like you do it, but I really like doing that. That's cool when I go on a hike, and that's cool when I'm, So as the minute I begin to understand what that naturalist is, then I start to say, well, I'm sort of like that too, because I live here. It's sort of easy to do, and I think I'll do it. Or the eclectic, what's that? Well, that's the journey of most of us. Most of us started in one tradition, we moved to another, we married into another, and then our kids went to another, and then isn't that almost all of us as we journey through our lives? And so that eclectic background is the vast majority of Americans now. Is that really the eclectic? And some of them remain specific. The LDS, the Catholic, the pagan. That's a surprise, isn't it? I asked her how many pagans are in McCall. And she went, I think there's about 5. But I don't know.
5 that'll say it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're here. And then you sort of go, well, wow, that's interesting. How's that happen? And so I think our responsibility is to be aware of the people around us. And what's their religious persuasions? Or what's their spiritual persuasions is often the better question. How are you spiritually motivated? What's that do for you? I think the major religions deserve understanding. At least the ones around you. Do you understand them? And that becomes a question, well, where do I learn about them? Well, it's hard. And if you say, well, how many departments of religion do we have in any of our major universities? It could help us with this problem. And in Idaho, the number is 0. Anyone that has any training in the religions, if you have them at all on your faculty, and I can't find them, they would be in the philosophy department. And so our students in Idaho have virtually no opportunity to study with a professional religion scholar. Now, if you're so fortunate you've gone to a Catholic school, then you've got probably folks that are well trained in the major religions, and you'll have a shot at getting some training, reasonably diverse and reasonably fair to each of the faiths. Now, most of the world religion courses in Idaho are taught at religious universities and colleges. And that doesn't mean that they're not fair, but you get out, it's a weird experience when you're at a specifically religious college trying to learn about other religions. It's just a funny experience. And so you're sort of forced to say, if I'm interested in Buddhism, I've got to go to a Buddhist center. Or if I'm interested in Hindu center, I got to go to the Hindu temple. Or if I'm interested in Islam, I got to go to the mosque to learn about this. And that's really where you're forced to do, because there's just not much of anything in the Pacific Northwest when it comes to the training of religion. There's just not much. And so that's what we're faced with. And so you look at this and you say, wow, what a wonderful chance we've got to get together, because there aren't too many chances like this, folks. There just aren't too many chances. And so that's your chance of understanding. And your last step is focus. Please bring focus to something you're interested in. We Americans are notorious at cherry picking. Oh, I think I'll be a little bit of a Hindu. Oh, I caught something in Buddhism. I'm going to take something from that. Oh, I went over to Islam. Oh, there's something cool over in Islam. Christianity, oh yeah, that's my background. I can remember a few things from that. Yeah, I liked a few things, but and then I'm going to... You see how we cherry pick through the religions? And I beg you, focus. Bring focus to your studies. And the thing that you skip in virtually every religion is the discipline. That's what you skip. Because it's no fun. It's no fun to fast. It's no fun to do the prayers exactly the way you're supposed to do the prayers. It's no fun to do the hard meditation and just sit in one place for how long do you have to do this? The discipline goes first in any religion. But the discipline is what changes your life. It has been changing lives for millennia. But we eject that. And then we wonder why our lives don't change. And so that's the challenge for Americans, is you have this panoply available to you. But it's your responsibility not only to be aware of the religions and to understand as many as are around you, but also to focus on one. And that doesn't mean one forever. I'm not saying that. But focus on one until you're done, and then focus on another, and you're done, and then focus on another. And you'll bring this wonderful spiritual collage into place that really is our lives anyway. The number of times. I remember I was in grade 1, and I was on my way to a town outside. It was Lacombe, Alberta. I was on my way to Lacombe, Alberta. My dad was driving. I'd gotten up, and it was Saturday. And my dad was dragging me, and I knew I was going to church. Well, what the heck are we doing this on Saturday for? And so I arrived at this college that Dad wanted me to go to, and we sat through this whole service, and it's Saturday. What is this? And we go home, and I looked at Dad on the way home, and I says, great, now I don't have to go to church tomorrow, do I? And he says, you sure do. We've been going to a Seventh-day Adventist church that day, and Dad wanted to visit it. He didn't. I think he wanted to understand it better. And off we went on this Saturday, so Dad could figure out who these Seventh-day Adventist folks are. There's Seventh-day Adventist folks in McCall. And I can get my car fixed on a Sunday at the Chevron station because his dad is Seventh-day Adventist. And I could always take my car in on Sunday because I didn't have any, and I could get it fixed because he went to church on Saturday. So I knew that, and I could get my car fixed in McCall whenever we came. So if you know these little gems, you can sort of work them to your advantage. But again, I have this sort of tradition. And so welcome to my funkiness. And I'll just say I like all the religions. I prefer some more than others. And I hope you have the same. I hope you like all the religions, and I hope you prefer some more than others. I hope that's your perspective. And we'll chat about that. I'm just going to talk about flow, and then I'm going to turn it back to you guys a little bit. And so on flow, we'll get going at 6:30 each evening. I'll try and have a group question right off the bat. I'm going to do the next thing now. I'll try and do some responses. And then we'll do new material. If you don't like groups, and I keep having people tell me they don't like groups, then please just come at 7. Don't come at 6:30, and you'll skip it. And so every religious tradition has issues you don't like. Okay, I'm sorry. So come at 7 if you don't like groups. But I do like groups, and I think the best way to learn is from your neighbor. And I think if we can engage in our neighbors, we will learn more than if you just listen to somebody with a friend. And so I'll try and do that as often as I can. And I'll try and get you out at 8:30 as closely as I can, and I'll apologize for a minute late. I'll just try and get you down. Okay? Anything I've said that you want to drill into a little bit? On anything I've said? Okay. Has yoga been a spiritual experience for you? What is your religious journey? Our focus for these lectures will be yoga, mostly secular, sometimes spiritual. How does yoga help you? Is it a spiritual experience? And